Hey, what's up ladies and gentlemen, it is the one and only Maxi here, and I am back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Mario Kart Arcade GP for the arcade machines running on my Nintendo Wii thanks to the forms of the homebrew channel hacking, or in this case emulation. So yeah, last time we have managed to able to accomplish the forms of the Wario Cup, and overall that's actually a pretty good cup in the end though. At least I didn't actually manage to get screwed up, so even then though, everything else goes all pretty good, all things considered, throughout the majority of the run. So today for this episode, in this case today, is the fact that we are moving on to the fourth cup in the game, which appears to be Pac-Man Cup. Now this cup might actually be interesting to say the least, because well, we'll point it out whenever we dive right into the first round in this cup. Now, as far as I recall correctly, that most of these environments usually almost exactly gonna take place in between, well, let's just say Pac-Man Wall 2. Because I say Pac-Man Wall 2, just because of that one peculiar reference that you see in the actual background, that as you can see, we actually saw a golden fruit tree. So yeah, that's actually pretty interesting, because this almost takes place in the Pac Village, but as you can tell, the actual track is named for the first course in this cup, which appears to be Pac Mountain. So because of that though, yeah, it's a very standard kind of track, as you can tell. Like basically we're gonna have to go through all these caves every now and then, and every once in a while though there's gonna be a lot of like sharp curves every once in a while. So because of that though, sometimes the actual track itself can get pretty tricky at times. But when you get the hang of it though, it might not be so bad after all. So because of that though, yeah. And obviously, as you can tell, that since I'm still going to be playing as Toad, so because of that though, I really don't have to worry about just trying to start all over again for my safe progression. So anyway, and also if you can tell is the fact that this might actually be, well, the only cup in the game they're able to actually feature within, well, let's just say 3 laps. So yeah, that pretty much sums up when it comes to the forms of changing amount of those laps in particular. Well, I say that because whenever we get onto the forms of the second track in the game, that we'll point it out whenever we get into it. And plus, the next track after this though is going to be exciting, because either way though, that as far as you might as well able to notice something is the fact that they'll actually add something unique to the table, which we'll talk more about that whenever we you know, get into that specific course. So you know, obviously today's day is of course the, I would say today it is the 21st of March today, in this case in 2021. And it looks like we only got about 4 more days to go until, in the UK version at least, that Nintendo 3DS will become a decade old in the UK country. So because of that though, well, despite I haven't really played that much of my 3DS nowadays, especially because maybe it's because I'm used to playing game console, you know, consoles in general. So because of that though, sometimes if I was going to be able to try to play on my own time, sometimes I always attempt to able to play other things on my own time, on consoles anyway. So yeah, anyway though, so yeah, there's not much else I can honestly try to say at this point, and I do apologize if my voice has actually gone pretty awkward at this point today. But hopefully, enduring when it gets to the point until next weekend, which may actually be the last 2 videos coming up, which either way though, we'll point it out whenever we get on to next weekend. So, awesome player, yes, I will save it onto my Mario Kart right here. And of course, the next track we're going to be running to is Pac Labyrinth. And as you can tell, we're going to be able to, well, I would say we're going to be driving through the forms of that really awesome looking section in terms of the forms of, well, to be more specifically in Pac Labyrinth, which, yeah, I'm presuming this track actually plays out slightly similar to the forms of Pac Mountain, except the fact that there's actually a cool section whenever we dive right into the, well, the actual next section, if I recall. So, yeah, this is going to be exciting. And, speaking of excitement though, I did manage to recently watch the forms of the Square Enix Presents presentation recently, ever since about 3 days ago, and I'm gonna say, I'm just slightly disappointed with it once again. Although, there are some good redeemable qualities here and there, but honestly, not my cup of tea. But even then, we'll talk more about that whenever we get into the forms of the repeated playthroughs of, well, let's just say Pac Mountain as well as Pac Labyrinth and all that stuff. So yes, as you can see, we actually somehow transported into the actual virtual kind of like Pac-Man dimension, which I will say, it does look pretty awesome, all things considered. It's kind of a shame that the DX sequel doesn't even make it to the actual cut, but it does manage to retain Namco Circuit as well as Namco Stadium as far as I like to point things out for that specific track in Mario Kart Arcade's GP DX though. But at least I do like this one a bit better though, just because, well, obviously it does manage to able to take place in the well, two different kind of sections every once in a while. And this is where the difficulty starts to come in by the forms of, you notice about the fact that we are now moving on to the mastered difficulty cups. So this meaning about the fact that we now need to rely on small hops for able to take certain shortcuts, as you can see for that specific curve right there. So either way though, you have to be super precise when it comes to able to try to do some small hops or small jumps every now and then. But when you get the hang of it though, it might not be too bad, all things considered. Well, unless you do need to master it though, until you're able to actually just try to able to become a huge leader when it comes to the forms of, well, everything else for the most part. So yeah, let's get to the forms of specific announcements in regards to the forms of Square Enix presents during the forms of this month recently. The first thing they actually did reveal is the new information on the forms of Outriders, which I'm presuming that's what that game is actually called anyway. So yeah, it doesn't tickle my fancy, I'm afraid. So even then though, but the interesting part about that particular presentation to me though, is the fact that obviously Tomb Raider has getting itself the 25th anniversary ever since in 1996. So at least that's interesting to say the least. Even though, mind you, they actually did manage to reveal some specific announcements in regards to the forms of Tomb Raider's 25th anniversary, such as, for instance, they're going to be revealing, which I think it did manage to came out recently, that is the forms of another sort of like compilation of any sorts. But this time around though, it's most likely the forms of, well, let's just say Tomb Raider Survival Trilogy, or Survivor Trilogy I should say, which obviously includes the Tomb Raider and the Rise of the Tomb Raider and the Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So because of that though, it does look pretty interesting to say the least though, but I can't really tell which specific consoles they released it on. So because of that though, maybe it's because I'm used to with Crash Bandicoot and also Spyro the Dragon and stuff like that, but that's probably just me anyway though. But I definitely heard about the Tomb Raider series after all, so I definitely heard about those, but I've never actually played those before, so forgive me if I'm able to actually decide to budget and stuff like that. So, and also another announcement they did brings us into is the fact that we actually got ourselves a new trailer of Biden Wonderworld. I do apologize for that specific pronunciation error, but usually because I'm not exactly excited for this game, because let me tell you, it does not improve on the forms of this, you know, running engine, or to be more specifically, it does not improve the actual running speed, and also these visuals look exactly the same as the demo. So I can assure you that the Biden Wonderworld will be incredibly bombed when it came out or something like that. Although maybe, I really don't know, but at least we only got about next 5 days before that game comes out, until the 26th of March, so there could be a possibilities from that. So, and I do apologize for the actual, the screen capture card gets a bit glitched up, most notably because I think my computer starts to lag, so, yeah, I do apologize for that. So, I digress. So, because of this though, yeah, it's about to be drawn out at some point on the PlayStation 4 as usual, as well as the Nintendo Switch, and even Xbox One, and also they've now included the PlayStation 5, as well as the Xbox Series X version. So, And speaking of PlayStation 5 and the forms of Xbox Series X, the Marvel's Avengers is also getting its release, and along with the forms of some new content for Marvel's Avengers, the Square Enix kind of game. And it's also going to due out on the forms of PlayStation 5 alongside with the Xbox Series X. But you know what's really disappointing about that particular presentation overall? Is that they haven't got that much in terms of Nintendo Switch exclusive stuff. So this means no Kingdom Hearts and no Final Fantasy VII Remake, or, especially noticeable with the 25th anniversary of the Super Mario RPG, The Legend of the Seven Stars, which, that game has been out for about 25 years old now, and I was like, I wonder if they're going to be doing a remake of that game. If it's possible, I really don't know, but it's kind of a shame about the fact that the Kingdom Hearts doesn't even make it to, well, the Square Enix Presents, and also same applies for some other titles here and there as well, which is kind of sad, honestly. But either way, though, that's as far as I can usually think about it. So yeah, I'm not exactly impressed about the forms of the Square Enix Presents presentation. Although, eventually it will return at some point during the summer, so at least I can able to actually stick up with it. So either way though, that pretty much sums it up for the sake of time. So anyway, so now let's move on to the forms of, you know, obviously Pac Labyrinth once again. Although, one thing I totally forgot to mention about this is the fact that, obviously, between the forms of the 3rd round and the 4th round, in particularly for Pac Mountain, alongside with Pac Labyrinth, the only thing it does manage to add to the table when it comes to the actual, well, the actual tracks themselves in the 3rd round and the 4th round are very identical to each other. So the only new thing they're able to actually add it in is to add more grass, so to make things a little bit trickier. But honestly, the actual track plays out pretty much exactly the same. It does have lesser amount of changes, but eventually, whenever we get onto the forms of the final 2 cups in general, to be more specifically the Bowser Cup, along with the forms of the final unlockable cup, we're able to talk more about that. Until specifically next Sunday, as far as I like to point it out for this point. So, but yeah, I digress. So, another thing I just want to point things out in regards to the forms of the specific uploading schedules for the Maxi Toys YouTube channel thing. Originally, we weren't going to be able to actually decide to do, well, let's just say the forms of Virtual Boy Warrior Land at some point after when Tiana has finished up with Pokemon Snap eventually on next Tuesday. And we were able to try to do Virtual Boy Warrior Land at some point in next Thursday. However though, sadly though, that particular Let's Play will be delayed at some point on April. This is mainly because we need to able to get the forms of Super Mario 64 DS finished before we move on to the forms of the next set of Let's Plays. I know technically we could probably try to go back into Kirby Superstar Ultra, but we still have to save it up specifically until May, assuming if Silver the Hedgehog we're able to get back into that game. So, yeah, that's how it goes basically. So because of that though, yeah, honestly guys, there's not much else I can honestly try to talk about this at the same time, just because, well, obviously I just found Square Enix Presents just kind of feels a bit disappoints me. So because of that though, I'm sorry for this point, because even then though, and also not to mention though, in addition to not showing us the forms of, well, some more info in terms of Final Fantasy VII Remake, although they did on the PlayStation 5 version, thanks to the forms of State of Play, but for whatever reason, they just never revealed the Xbox versions of Final Fantasy VII Remake. I get it because it's the most iconic RPG game of all time on the PlayStation exclusive, but where's the forms of the Xbox Series X or Xbox One versions of that particular amazing remake? Or, to be more specifically, the Switch. Although, mind you, it might not do it on the Switch though, just because, well, I'm not exactly sure if they're gonna do that. So, because of that though, I have no words to say here, so. And, also, where's the forms of the new info on Final Fantasy 16? Although, I understand because of how the fact that it can take a really long time to make, for the likes of certain RPGs, as I know. So anyway, let's just go ahead and move on to the challenge game on the Pac-Man Cup. And this is actually pretty interesting as well, just because we somehow instantly got transported into the forms of the actual Pac-Man kind of circuit board kind of game. And basically, all we have to do in this challenge is the fact that we need to jump over for those electrical lines, while the ghosts are trying to able to actually just, well, you know what I mean, the actual iconic Blinky, Clyde, Inky, and Pinky. So even then though that, yeah, that's what pointings out with the actual, dang it. Sometimes this challenge can get quite tricky, but when you make it to the end though, then you were able to achieve the Pac-Man Cup. So there we go. And it looks like we only got about 2 cups left, and it looks like we got ourselves the very odd looking mushroom right there, which is kind of odd considering. But anyways, let's save our little card, and oh wait a second guys. Okay, quick error right there, sorry about that folks. I have to fix up my capture card, so just in case it doesn't go completely lag or anything else like that. So yeah, I guess that pretty much does it for this video for this point right here. So join me next weekend for more of Let's Play of Mario Kart Arcade GP. It's now we are moving on to the Bowser Cup, and this is where it gets a bit tricky though, but I'll got this anyway. So I'll see you guys on next Saturday. Later fellas.